Okay, it's time to start. I want to leave plenty of time at the end, so let us first take in the fact that we are meeting in the traditional and unceded territory of many First Nations, such as the Mohawk, the Six Nation Confederacy, the Anishinaabe, and the Algonquin peoples. Let's do what we can to honor them. This is the PQUIP working group. This is the note well that you've seen many times. Note that you've already agreed to this. Not going to leave this up here for too long for you to read it. If you haven't for some reason, just that's where we're at. So this is the important, to me, the important part of the note well is that you've already agreed to follow the IETF guidelines. And there were plenty of guidelines on this slide, as you can see. The one that's being highlighted here is that we're all expected to behave in a professional manner, extend respect and courtesy to our colleagues at all times. And if this is not familiar to you for some reason, even though you did agree to it when you registered, there is a link to the note well, and there's a QR for those of us who prefer that kind of thing. So here you probably have also, unless this is your very first working group this week, you've seen these meeting tips. Definitely use the online tool that prevents people from hearing what you're doing and such like that. Absolutely do please register. So it looks like the room's not filling, but this is the first time we've had an appropriate size room in quite some time, so yay. If you have questions, you can raise them at the mic. If you go to the mic queue, please remember to state your name. And that's not only, even though some people are seeing it up on the screen, in the recordings, sometimes it's not clear who is speaking. And we have heard that many people will be watching this and recording. So do please, every time you go to the mic, please say who you are. Are you about to go to the mic? Okay, good. Okay, so here's the agenda overview. The full agenda is in the data tracker. We're going to talk a little bit about the documents that were completed. We're going to have a couple of very brief notes on outside projects that relate to us. We've got full presentations on our 2 current working group drafts. We've got seems like every time we meet, we do at least 1 or 2 presentations on things that are about the outside world coming into us. And so we've got one today on Etsy and quantum safe cryptography. And then the last bit, and that it'll probably be long, is talking about guidance for adopting post-quantum. And that bit is going to have, I have a couple of slides, and then we will go into the discussion. But there we go. So let's talk briefly about what this working group has already done. Remember, this is sort of a funky working group in the sense that we don't make protocols here, and we don't tell other working groups how they should make protocols. So we have an RFC that was already published, which is terminology. That is already getting widely read. I keep hearing about it from people. So good on the working group for putting as much work as we did. I mean, I started it a zillion years ago, and it came out way better due to the amount of input from the working group. So yay. We've got 2 documents that we have finished since the last meeting, hybrid signature spectrums and PQC for engineers. Both of those are in the RFC editor's queue. That means nothing's going to change in them other than editorial and maybe some formatting. They will become RFCs most likely before the next time we meet in Shenzhen. So let's talk a little bit, because again, this working group is somewhat about other things that are happening. The first is that there's a lot of interoperability testing happening with PQC. John, you want to tell us a little bit about that? And say who you are, because we don't have.
Yeah, it's John Gray from Intrust. I'll just talk a little bit about our PQ hackathon. As you know, we've been running it for like 3 years now. I'm not going to show slides just because I want to be quick. So this time, because we recently got composite OIDs assigned, a lot of the people in the group were working on composite implementations. We had 6 people doing that, well, 6 different groups, about 12 people. So that was great. So interoperability is happening there. We also had the first time, so we've done some CMS testing too for signatures and for chems. And so Dan Van Geest actually got some automated testing happening there too. So we have an artifact format. You can upload that and see very quickly if your CMS artifacts are working. There's a bunch of other stuff that happened since then, and we're going to continue to test. So we're going to meet next month. What is it? December 2nd on Tuesday. If you want to join us, come do that. And also go to you have the link there. So go to that page. There's lots of pretty slides, lots of green now and check marks and things like that. A couple things I guess I forgot to mention because I don't have the slides in front of me, but a couple things that we did learn. The seeds and expanded format, not everybody supports that. About half the implementations have testing with that. So I guess it just shows, that was a change that happened more recently. So probably implementations aren't, fully done with those things. So that's something we noticed. And the other things, I think that's, I guess the composite implementations are pretty mature at this point in terms of being able to implement them. People didn't have trouble with that. And there was some discussion about the private key formats, which if you went to lamps and stuff, there was more discussion about that, and we're still doing some updates to that. So anyway, it's helping us with the standards, and we keep doing this.
Great.
Any questions? Anything else? Okay.
Yep. And again, do note this is not just the hackathon, that they actually meet often. So go if you're at all interested, go to the site. It's like monthly calls?
Yeah, we have monthly meetings
Yeah.
the first Tuesday of every month. And you can actually look in the discussion section of the GitHub, and it has all the notes from previous meetings, and you can see when the next meeting is.
So this is a thing that's happening not on the not on our mailing list, but is continuing, and then many of them get together at the hackathons.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, great.
And
Thanks.
we support remote and virtual, right? So it's always,
sure.
We're very open to everyone joining us. Thanks.
Yep, thank you. The PQ DNSSEC informal research gang did not meet this time. There's the mailing list. Mailing list has been mostly quiet. However, it's not dead. So if you're interested in that, go, subscribe to the mailing list, look through the archives. The CFRG met earlier this week. They're going to meet again later today. And of course, CFRG, there's many post-quantum topics there. So if you're at all interested, look at their agenda for that. So our first presentation is of our 2 working group documents is on HBS state and proving that I am able.
Do you want me to share?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yes. So for those who are wondering who the heck just said something, that's Sophia, the other co-chair. She will be running the slides here for this.
Okay, let me a second because I have to. Can you unshare your slide?
I can unshare my slides. I am no longer sharing.
Yes. Hash base, right? Yeah, there you go. Tom, I'm going to give you the control. Okay. There you go, Tom. Oh, good.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Tom Wiggers. I'm presenting this on behalf of all of us who've worked on this.
Tom, a bit louder. Or just speak up.
Let me try this again. I don't want to wake up my son who is sleeping, so that's a little bit of a concern. Good afternoon to you guys. Good evening to me, I guess. I am presenting this sort of brief update on this draft on behalf of course, everyone who worked on it. And I also wanted to start with thanks everyone for the comments that you gave. So basically a brief summary of the changes that we made. Each of these items is a link to a pull request. So if you want to see, what did these guys do about that thing, then you can just go to Data Tracker, find the slides and click the link. So yeah, we added from the discussion at the last meeting a comparison to the Etsy thing and to the prior research paper in the introduction, sort of clarifying how it relates to those different documents. Scott very kindly gave a whole bunch of suggestions and comments, and we fixed a bunch of them in a bunch of different PRs. And Alicia also gave us some comments that we fixed by adding a bit of text. We added some new text. We wrote about interval-based state preservation, which is basically you sort of make sure that you commit to some block of one-time signing key, and then you sort of proceed with consuming those. And if you lose state somewhere along the way, you just assume that all were used. So hopefully that will give you some sort of assurance that you're updating things correctly. Please review that if you are interested in seeing how that was specified. There was discussion on the mailing list on adding warnings when you reach certain amounts of thresholds, sort of in the interest of availability, because these schemes have a limited number of signatures available. So we added a few lines here and there suggesting that you might want to do something about that. And Scott suggested that we might hint at the fact that the different parameters impact performance and things like that in many ways, and should be carefully considered when you start out with such a scheme. Then we had a few further scoping decisions that we sort of made. Again, on the parameter selection, Scott suggested that we could write a lot about this, but we decided, because this is such a huge subject and we're mainly focusing on the usage, that we would not go much further than acknowledging that they exist and suggesting that people go do their own research. And Scott also suggested that we could add a lot of text about implementation tricks. He had a bunch in mind already and very kindly volunteered to write this for us. But as the authors, we decided that while probably very interesting, it goes way beyond the scope of the current document and its audience. So we figured that even though we would like to see it somewhere, either IACR ePrint or maybe a different document, maybe not in this working group because it would be implementation related, but could be interesting. And if people are interested in what Scott had to say about this, then they can probably reach out to Scott directly. If they shouldn't reach out to Scott directly, sorry, Scott, for throwing you under the bus here. Then there's the sort of final elephant in the room, and this is sort of the only thing that's open on our issue tracker, and that is, what is NIST doing about SP 800-208? For some reason, NIST is currently not answering their emails, but honestly,
for a very large
sad.
value of some reason.
Let me refrain from being the European guy commenting on US politics. But even before that, it definitely is still looking like they have reduced bandwidth, and we tried reaching out in person and via email. BSI sent some emails, or rather the guys in the author group who are with BSI, the German agency. But we've not really gotten any response yet. We have come to the conclusion that none of the stuff that we wrote down is sort of in the way of anything that they would do. So we are leaning towards letting this go and closing that sort of remaining issue, which basically means, should we go to last call? Which is my last slide.
Very good. Scott, are you in the room? Okay. So Tom, can you go back 2 slides? So this, just wearing my co-chair hat, I agree that these things are not in scope for the current draft. There may be interest in having a draft of this sort. It's not clear that it would be in PQUIP or not. But I think that there is plenty of space on the mailing list to discuss these topics outside of the, is it for this draft? The draft is well scoped. I agree that we probably, if, Tom, you're not feeling like you're waiting on NIST for anything to finish the draft. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. So I would suggest possibly, we'll do this on the list within the next week or two, of going to working group last call, seeing if anything shakes out. Deirdre?
Hi, I'm Deirdre. I trust you, having, reviewed one version of this document and the latest from NIST on their suggested paring down of, Cypher suites, that this is fine, and I support our working group last call.
Great. Anyone else in the room who's been actively tracking the document that has a niggling, oh, but I also want this, or I don't want that? Not seeing any, and not seeing in the mic line. So I would say yes, then Sophia and I will figure out a time soon to start a working group last call. We're not in a rush, but it would be good to move this forwards, because quite frankly, even when the elephant in the room leaves the room, there's going to be plenty to clean up after it, and this might not be highest priority for NIST. And we will, Tom, you'll keep trying to bug them to say, hey, this is zooming through, please let us know if it shouldn't, okay?
I presume that they're subscribed to the mailing list as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll also notify them of the last call, I think, is when that starts, that is explicitly happening.
Great.
On the subject of these scoping decisions and continuing discussions on that topic and maybe doing another draft, I think that they are very interesting things. They're things that I struggled with myself at times, because for LMS, for example, none of the current documents actually specify what the sizes of the parameters are, which is kind of important when you want to select one of them. So there does seem to be something to do there. I will acknowledge that, even though it does not fit in the current document.
Right, and we'll have to have a discussion. Both, we'll see if there's interest in the working group, but even if there is, that doesn't mean we can that this working group can necessarily adopt a document on it. But again, we have time, and we'll talk with our ADs about that. So, okay, thank you. And then next up is Dan Wing, who's also being remote. And
awesome. Thanks, Paul.
great. And you've got control, Dan.
I don't know if I can handle that.
I gave you the control, Dan, so you should be
Thank
able
you.
to move.
Thank you. So this is an update on our constrained document on how to handle, how to upgrade low-end devices. HSMs is where we started. Scope has expanded a bit to cover all other small, low-powered devices. In a status update, Scott Fleur had a comment that's our issue track 38 on signing rejection sampling. We're still working on implementation and some text that'll be appropriate for his feedback there. And we are waiting on NIST on the FNDSA recovery modes. So that looks like it may be a little while until we get an update on that on FIPS 206. And I believe that is all we have. Close those couple of issues and wait for additional comments from the working group.
Dan, so go back a slide. You are waiting on NIST for a response on this? You are waiting for a new version of FIPS 206?
Waiting for a new version.
Okay. What happens if that doesn't seem imminent? Do you feel like that you have from what I understand, and I'm not an expert on it, it looks like you have alternatives there. Can you just say there are alternatives, or do you really want to wait for NIST?
We can say that we could come up with some text to work around it. How's that?
Okay.
If
We're not in a rush, but yeah.
Yeah, it comes down to timing when we want to publish the doc versus where they are.
Yep. In the queue, Tom.
I do think that it's worth sort of putting out FNDSA is probably one of the highest priority things of the post-con working group within this right now. So I would kind of expect that if they put out anything soon, then this is probably going to be one of them. I also know that there have been drafts circulating with the authors of Falcon and NIST for quite a while now. So this has been on the sort of soon TM state for a while now, which is much further along the process than anything on the XMSS stuff, for example. So maybe waiting for this is worth it.
Well, their schedule before was November, I remember seeing, and we're still in November. So, you know, if we figure they'll get back to work and December, January, somewhere around like that, feels like about when it may happen. So it's not that long.
Okay, sounds good. And of course, all you folks in the room, please do read the document, even though we know we're waiting on stuff. It's always better to bring things before working group last call, instead of during working group last call. So if you're looking for something to do on your flight home and stuff like that, this one has not gotten as much love as the other document. So please do take a look at it, send comments to the list. Let's see what's going on here. So great. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, everybody.
We also have Philippe on the queue, Paul.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not see him appear. Philippe?
Oh, yeah, sorry, it was a late question. So on the document in relation to post-quantum for firmware upgrade on those constrained devices, my question was related to, do we know what is being done in the UEFI forum? Because I would suspect that all those devices are going to implement what the UEFI forum specifies.
I myself have not been tracking that, no.
Anyone else, either in the room or online, who's been following UEFI, who can at least give us a hint? Nope, not seeing any. So, okay, again, thanks, Dan. And next up, Matt Campagna. Sophia will.
Yes, give me a
us
second,
slides.
Matthew.
And Matt, we're not hearing you. We're seeing your lips move. Matt, we're still not hearing you. Now you are definitely muted. Now try again. No, your computer seems to not want to help you here. And no rush, just, yeah. You've got the right permissions, at least here on my screen, so. That did not help. Okay, we see you in the participant list again. Try speaking again. No. We've got your video, but we do not have any audio for you. If this cannot work, do we have somebody else in the room who had also worked on the presentation?
Maybe we try this next presentation and we return to Matthew.
I'd rather not, because the next one actually leads into the long one after that. So let's give Matthew a couple more minutes before we give up on Etsy. Sophia, we have you on video just in case. Okay. Matthew, this may not be working. Let me try one thing. Let me revoke your audio and then give it back to you, or have you come back. Do you want to try one more time, Matthew? Oh, he's changing browsers. I do that. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
We can. I was about to give up on you. Thank you. We could even see your video if you.
Thank you.
Very
For
good.
some reason, Chrome was blocking it, so.
That'll teach you. Please. And you have control of the slides.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry for the, I have about maybe 10, 15 slides. And take questions if necessary. So I'm Matt Campagna from Amazon Web Services, and I'll be talking a little bit about Etsy and the technical committee for quantum safe photography working group. And there's a lot of overlap between some attendees of both the QSC in Etsy and this IETF in general, and suggested that I give a presentation. So I appreciate the time, Paul and Sophia. Quick agenda, what's Etsy? What's the Etsy TC Cyber QSC working group? Some recently finished recommendations and specifications, and then what are the new work items we're working on and how to participate, and some upcoming Etsy events that you might be interested in. So Etsy was founded in 1988. It's a nonprofit European standards organization, sort of one of three entities within Europe, along with Senelec, that can produce what's called harmonized standards for EU regulations and legislation. It's headquartered in Sofia Antipolis, has about 900 members across maybe 40 or so technical working groups and industry specification groups combined. Includes some pretty well-known partnerships like 3GPP for cellular and 1M2M. And the funding primarily comes from membership fees of the participants, the European Commission, and partnerships like 3GPP. So the history of the ETSI TC Cyber Working Group for quantum safe crypto really goes back to 2013. There was, we started this quantum safe crypto workshop, really kicked off between ETSI and the Institute for Quantum Computing at the University of Waterloo. The workshop was led by Michele Mosca, but included lots of organizing members from NIST, NCSC, CSC, Microsoft, BlackBerry, Certicom, where I was at the time. Was based on this notion that a large-scale quantum computer, if it comes around in 20 years, we already knew it takes 20 years to move to new public key algorithms. It's just how long it takes to standardize, gain some assurance, and deploy them. So the working group really pulled together, was focused on how do we kickstart that standardization process. We published the outcome of those. Took us a full year really to publish those results that included a lot of details. I won't really go into them, so I'll skip that slide. But things like, hey, somebody's got to really lead the standardization process. And some proposals for testing these algorithms early were like hybrid, and some rough outlines of migration plans. And in 2015, we also started what's called an industry specification group within ETSI, which is a little different than a technical committee that can produce normal harmonized standards. In 2018, there was a new technical committee called Cyber, and we became a working group of that. This is just sort of a brief outline of this paper about what really needed to happen at the time. It's more of a historical footnote. Many of these things have kind of come about. We've reached a point where there's a relatively good confidence in these new post-quantum cryptographic algorithms, if not uniform confidence in them. Identifying rigidity in protocols, some that'll be easy to transition, some that we'll have to re-engineer, and really creating a sense of urgency around adoption. A little bit about the working group itself. I'm the chair from Amazon. We have a few vice chairs, Mark Peason from Beyond Affinity, James Howe from Sandbox AQ, and Peter C. from NCSC, a secretariat, Tony Barnett from Thales, and a technical officer. So at ETSI, the technical officer is there to help the working group sort of function and abide by the SDO rules for development of standards. We take on new work items by basically a proposal. Somebody writes a scoping document and gets 3 or more additional ETSI working group members to support that working group. And it takes roughly 18 months to go from a new work item to publication of that work item as a ratified standard or recommendation. We have about 30 or 40 participants today that are from corporate, government, and academia. So the mix is not too indifferent than what you might see at IETF. Some of the recent recommendations and specifications, they kind of fall into 3 categories. First category is analysis. Based documents. These are published as what's called TRs, technical recommendations, even though they're largely analysis documents. 2 recent ones are on the impact of quantum computing to symmetric cryptography and the impact of quantum computing on assumptions and techniques we use in developing security proofs, let's say, in traditional protocol development. We also produce sets of recommendations, whether they're planning or migration strategies or implementation guidelines. Some recent ones include a framework for PQC migration, considerations for the use of hybrid composite schemes, as well as a stateful recommendations for stateful-based hash-based signatures. And then we produce what we call standards. these are normative standards that can be referenced throughout ETSI in particular. Two that we've worked on, a revision of quantum safe hybrid key establishment. This is one of the early recommendations from 2013 that we followed up on, and this is a revision. The early ones were a version of this was intended for testing purposes using these PQC candidate algorithms in a hybrid mode, and this one is restricted down now to the NIST ML-Chem in a hybrid form. And then an efficient quantum safe hybrid key exchange with hidden access policies. You can really think of this as an attribute-based encryption using a hybrid key establishment technique. So those are completed documents today. And these ETSI documents, you can see this work happening within the ETSI working group, like the proposals, the scoping for these documents, the progress on these documents. And when the documents are published, they're freely available for anybody to download and reference. So there are some links in the slide deck if you wanted to grab those. We also, within ETSI, the larger part of ETSI, they have a spot on GitHub called ETSI Forge, where they'll publish reference implementations for things like this one happens to be for that TS103744 quantum safe hybrid key exchange. We also have a series of new work items that we're working on. Guidance for key encapsulation mechanisms and digital signatures. This is for secure implementations. There's a general one on ML-Chem, ML-DSA, and stateless hash-based signature schemes. So those all fall into the migration plans and recommendation strategy. And then we have another standard that we're working on called authenticated hybrid key establishment. This has a couple of different features that are different than the quantum safe hybrid key establishment. One, that it includes a mechanism for authenticating, and two, that if you are using something like QKD, that the resulting key set that you get retains the information security of the QKD if that's something configuration for this. This also is work that's being sponsored by ISMEA, which is the European Union Innovation for Small and Medium Enterprises, put out a request for proposals to ETSI to submit on the topic, a handful of topics for EU use. And this is part of that set of standards that are being developed under that. Finally, I'll just close. We have a portal. It's a very standards-based portal that looks like it's from the late 90s. It can be a little difficult to navigate at first, but people can browse the portal today and gain access to most of what's going on in these working groups, who's participating, what the active work program is. And if you're members, then you can sign up to attend and look at the drafts as they're going through the processing. So a little slightly different than IETF in the availability of the drafts is restricted down to the members that are participating. Finally, I'll say we have just sort of an announcement where the ETSI IQC Quantum Safe Cryptography Conference is ongoing. We've been doing that since 2013. The next one will be in Ottawa in June of 2026. And we expect a call for submissions by the end of this year. That should be going out. That's typically on the ETSI website, but somebody cross-posts it to LinkedIn and a couple other venues. That's all I really have. That and anything that we could do to deduplicate work. We're not in the business of standardizing new algorithms. We're not in the business of making recommendations to IETF, we're primarily focused. The work is focused on the members who bring the need to the working group, or from the other 40 or so working groups across ETSI that have different or unique environments that require a post-quantum solution. They will source those from this working group. That's all I have. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Questions other than the stuff that's been going on in the chat?
Oh, thanks, Flo.
Yep. I'm not seeing anyone in the mic line. I'm assuming your PDF that you sent us, the links are live, so that people
I think
can.
so. They should have survived the
Okay. Yeah.
transition. Yeah.
Okay. Even though you didn't have to switch to your browser for that. Okay. Very good. Thanks very much.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.
Next up, Lucas. Oh, there you are. Well, not until she has the slides up. Sophia, you are going to.
Yes. I'm putting your slide, Lucas. Sorry.
That's okay. You were typing a lot in the chat. There we go.
Okay.
Lucas, give me a second. I'll pass you the slide.
Oh,
Oh,
and I will give you the.
Lucas, you're not connected to via the phone. Oh, no. You're not controlling your slide. Okay. I think you pass it, Paul.
You check whether that actually works or not. Yes. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. So this talk will be about the post-quantum algorithms guidance draft. So it was already presented during the last IETF 123, and today I will give a brief reminder of what this draft is about, as well as an update. So first, the motivation behind this work comes from different real-world needs. So as we know, today many post-quantum algorithms exist, but the relevant information is scattered across research papers, standardizations documents, agency guidelines, or benchmarking platforms. So it makes it difficult for protocol designers or implementers to make informed choices quickly. Additionally, while the NIST standardization process is central, some organizations like the European Commission require consideration for non-NIST algorithms. And so for implementers, it's important to understand the broader set of schemes that are not covered by the NIST specifications. Another challenge is comparing trade-offs across algorithms, because key sizes, underlying security assumptions, or maturity level are not always presented in a consistent way. So this draft helps to address this by centralizing comparative information in a single place. And also this draft supports the goals of the PQUIP Charter by providing relevant information for the post-quantum migration. And so for the content, this draft provides a high-level description of a curated sets of schemes and signatures. So for each scheme, we summarize key attributes like parameter sizes, claim security level, security models, or the standardization status and other relevant information. And so, yes, we focus on comparison clarity. So the presentation format was designed for easy side-by-side comparison, so that readers can navigate across different trade-offs. And this is not a technical dive, but only a comparative summary to help inform decisions. So since IETF 123, we only did some minor changes. So we added some comments because we were asked about SUF CMA security for some algorithms, and we added some general details about PQC signatures and chems. And the draft was well received during IETF 123, and I selected a few comments that were made during this meeting. So one comment was about keeping the draft neutral. So this is our objective, and there is no recommendation in the draft. We don't provide a recommendation, a recommended list of algorithms, and we don't say that this algorithm should be used with this protocol. So we will try to keep this draft as neutral as possible. There were also some questions about the appropriate format for such a document. So I think having a living document, like an easily searchable and regularly updated living document, sounds like the best solution. And it seems like during the previous IETF meeting, it was also what other people were thinking. And some comments that we received also were about the scope and the length of the algorithms list. For now, in order to avoid having a list which is too long, we only feature NIST and ISO algorithms, but we are open to add other algorithms after working group decisions and discussions. And so for the next steps, here are some questions for the working group. So what would be a good criteria for the algorithm selection? Should we extend the scope of the document? Should we add specific schemes right now? And is there any suggestion to improve the clarity or the structure of the documents? So all comments and suggestions are welcome. And if possibly, maybe a call for adoption would be good. That's all for me.
Okay. So let's have a short-ish mic line, because a lot of the questions that come here will also apply in the next one. Mike, you're first.
Right. Could you go back one? Mike Ounsworth. Right. So that top one, importance of keeping the draft neutral. Yeah, right. If this becomes a policy document or a recommended, this is going to be the biggest bike shed ever.
And that's what the next set of presentations is about.
Yeah, right. So as a person who likes to stick my face into lions' cages, maybe don't do that. But the title of the document sort of conflicts with that. PQC guidance, and then you say this isn't guidance.
Yes, I agree. The title is.
Do that.
I think we need to change the title. It's more objective information than guidance.
Tony?
Hi, Tony Lee, HPE. I'm here seeking guidance. I've crossed the line. I've come here from routing area. I've been tasked with cramming PQC into routing authentication. And we have one problem. We have hashes that don't fit in the fields that we've got room for. And so many people have been telling me, well, just truncate the hash. Is that okay? I don't know. I've been told several things that all conflict. It would be very, very helpful if there was a clear statement of what is permissible that will not compromise security.
Great. Tony, you're in the wrong working group. That's later today for CFRG, if you're asking about truncating hashes. You will be here for asking, because of course, then you'll come back and ask about post-quantum algorithms, because everyone does. But wait for the next set of presentations on what we get to do about guidance. And by the way, feel free to use the mailing list. You'll probably get a much better answer than you would at the mic on that. But some of your questions are definitely CFRG questions or sector questions. Some of them will be relevant here. And no, we don't have good lines for which one is which. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
There'll be plenty of people who will want to give you advice. So other questions on this specific draft before we start talking about guidance drafts in general? Great, thank you. Okay, Sophia, if you can put up the chair slides. And I've got the clicker. Oh, yes, my clicker is working. Is it working? No, it's no longer working. Let me do that.
Now it's working.
Now it is working, right.
Yeah.
They do a reasonably good job of preventing the two of us from stepping on each other. Okay, so here we are. By the way, we have a little bit more than an hour. I hope we don't, and this is the last topic for the day. I hope we don't spend it all on that, but we can. So as you've seen on the mailing list, that there are drafts from various places, which want to talk about how to migrate to post-quantum. There are drafts saying how to do it for this working group. There's drafts that say how to do this if you're a purchaser of equipment. There are drafts that, all sorts. And I made what I thought was a list. I believe the list is already too short. There's lots of people who are interested in this migration thing because, of course, we're already done with all the protocol work. I'm expecting to hear laughter at this point. We're not done. And in fact, it's really not clear who the object of these various drafts would be. You just heard one presentation. That's the second time we've heard on that. But there's a zillion others. Let's remember that, in fact, assuming that this working group does adopt something in this, there will be an RFC. RFCs are read and trusted by a very wide variety of people. It is hard for us to narrow it down. This working group is painfully aware of this. Remember all the work we did on the terminology draft and the PQC for engineers, where we kept saying, turn the knob this way towards more technical, turn the knob this way more towards operator, try to get the knob in the middle and such like that. So we're going to have that if we pick up anything on migration anyways. So let's have a discussion. This is the last slide. Let's have a discussion about what can this working group, not any individual author, they get to do whatever they want. What can we contribute to this discussion? I am a proponent of the first bullet, the skeptical view. Why should we be telling anybody, whether it's someone who's adopting a strategy or whatever, what we think they should do, if in fact we don't know anything about their environment, or we know a little bit about their environment, which is probably more dangerous than knowing a lot about their environment. There are all sorts of consultants out there now. In fact, one or two of them are sitting in the room. And some of them would like to be sitting in the room. They didn't realize we were going to be discussing this. And there are articles every week about what you should know about migrating to post-quantum. What can we do that is better than that, and that once it's instantiated as an RFC will continue to be better than that over the long term? And then the bullet that I always throw in, we can't predict the future. Those of you who have heard me say this before, I as an individual suck at predicting the future. Many of you who've been in the IETF long enough have heard some of my predictions that have turned out to be hilariously wrong. But there are whole working groups that have made really bad predictions about the future. So can PQUIP help here? Now, the less skeptical view is there are a bunch of experts here. And going back to this slide, I have not read all these drafts, but I have looked at least at the abstracts of them, and none of them seemed horrible. In fact, some of them seemed good. So we are experts here, and maybe we can catalog the considerations. But does cataloging help? It might help somebody who has not read any of the articles and not hired a consultant. So anyways, that's what I want to say here. We have plenty of time for discussion, but really the focus of the discussion is not what do we tell people, but should we be the ones telling people? Rich, you're up first.
Rich Sauls, nothing. To answer the question on this title of the slide, we should not get involved in this at all. There are too many factors, too many competing decisions. We won't even get consensus on, should we say, what recommendations we'd make about hybrid versus composite, let alone what specific algorithms to put in each. Second, so we won't get consensus within the working group. And then if we do, it's going to be so vague and there are going to be so many things to consider that this will end up being useless to people in a particular environment trying to make a decision. And if even if it is not useless, they'll have to ignore it anyway because they'll be getting guidance or requirements from their local government or commercial organizations such as Payment Card, and they'll have to follow those. So I don't think there's anything useful that we could do or contribute to these discussions.
Thank you. Mike?
Mike Elmsworth, exactly +1 to Rich. We can't get consensus among the experts on any of this. This slide is a bike shed factory. I think the only useful outcome is like draft.
Wait, no, it's painting the bike shed. We're not trying to create new bike sheds.
No. I think this is a whole bike shed factory.
Okay, then the painting comes later. Got it. Okay.
I think if we're going to do anything, we should publish draft PQUIP, go hire a cryptographer. It will be an abstract, and that's the whole draft.
Yeah, but we don't want to tell that either because, yeah. So anyways, Chris, you're next.
Yeah, so Chris Petkowski, I'm author of one of those drafts, and I think from the comments that we've got for the draft, what I think is that if there is something useful to say, then in a draft, then it should be something around. It should be protocol agnostic, and it should be guidance for compliant migration. So this is in order to prevent developers to migrate too many times. Not every migration needs to go to hybrid. Maybe some in some cases waiting for a proper solution or just going to purist is better to minimize the cost. So if we have a draft, then it should offer kind of guidance to transition transition to hybrid and from hybrid to post-quantum. To pure post-quantum. And then the last thing that I think makes sense is that should be kind of deliberate and comprehensive guidance that is kind of aims to minimize numbers of those steps in transition. And
so, Chris, I heard you say two different things. I want to see which one's more important. At the beginning, you said we should just be doing numbers, show them strengths, compare them to what they have now. But then you started talking about guidance for which steps do you do and when do you do the steps. Which of those were
what I mean is not always, like currently there is kind of push to migrate to hybrid, for, let's say.
There's pushes all over.
Yeah, there are pushes all over, and I kind of think about maybe a bit more. If in concrete use case, do we for example need to go to hybrid signature? So should we wait, or should be for the given use case, should it be
okay,
migration to hybrid or not? Well, yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. Richard, you're up.
Yeah, +1 to what Rich and Mike Elmsworth were saying. I feel like we addressed this question on Monday at Dispatch with Mr. Farrell's draft, which was also aiming to provide such high-level guidance, and we agreed, there was pretty good agreement in the room at that point that like this was not a useful thing to do, and so I think it's also not useful here. I think your list of drafts was actually helpful in making that point, Paul, and that many people have already succeeded here, and that's a nice empirical validation that this guidance isn't needed.
Thank you. Tim?
Yeah, just yet another +1. We can't do anything here. We would just add confusion, slow things down, and cause a lot of fun but unproductive discussions. And so we can be more efficient and more productive by skipping all of those.
Okay, thank you. Flo.
Electric. Hi, Flo Driscoll, NCSC. I basically agree with what's been said so far. I think there might be specific guidance that we can offer kind of later in the process when we've got a clear idea of what the technical challenges are of specific migrations. Whether that's for the IETF or another standards body, I don't know, because I don't know what those problems are yet. But I think at the minute there's an awful lot of kind of general guidance being written, and I don't think we're the right body to do that.
So before you go away, you just said something interesting. So it's a few years down the line. These people have migrated this way and had these problems. These people migrate and had these problems. Do you believe we are going to maybe see a pattern in migration problems?
I believe that in in different industries, migration will look different.
Mhm.
For a lot, it will look the same because everyone uses the same IT, but there will be parts of society where it will look different. I assume that specific technical challenges will arise from that. It may then occur that some of those become relevant to the IETF, but I'm speculating.
Okay, so this would be come in late after migrations are happening.
Or at least once more planning has happened for migration.
Great, thank you. Eckert.
Eric Scorla, in the name of all that's holy, do not do this. More to the point, I think the fact that we're even having this discussion is a sign that this working group has exited the part of its life cycle where the initial impulse of work was done, and entered the part of its life cycle where people start looking for work to do.
Mhm.
And so I will repeat in that context, the wise words of Richard Barnes when he was AD: always be closing.
Yeah. Great. David.
David Adrian Crum, unsurprisingly, also going to +1, but just wanted to.
This might be a short working group meeting.
Wanted to note that.
We still have a few more in the line, but yes, please.
One way to look at this is to say, while I agree we can't really predict the future, but like what tangibly would anyone do different if the draft that we were looking at earlier existed or did not exist? And as far as I can tell, the answer is absolutely nothing, which suggests that like we shouldn't, that the only reason to do it is because like we want to do it, which I don't know. I mean, you do you, but.
Well, no, it's not you do you, because if the working group adopts a thing and either no one's interested or everyone's interested in jumping on it, that takes a lot of you time. And so we do want to only do this if it's useful.
Yeah, a lot of you.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, great, thank you. Nalini.
So, as always, I will present a different point of view. Okay, so I work with lots of large enterprises, banks, healthcare insurance, and the like. And I don't know what can be done where, but probably something needs to be done somewhere, because there's a lot of confusion out there, and people are saying, okay, so there's going to be all these government mandates. Now, what is said mandate going to be? Is it self-attestation? Well, that's kind of like the IRS asking me how much income I make. 0. I make no income, right? And so it would be nice to have something. And a lot of the stuff that I see is very hand wavy, like do a cryptographic inventory. Really, an inventory of a what? What's installed, what's active, what's actually negotiated. I mean, what? And so I don't know what can be done. It would be really nice, possibly something that we could do is to say something like, what might be a reasonable mandate? I know that's way out of the scope of what we're doing. I just want to point out that there's a lot of people who are very confused and a lot of really bad advice going out.
Okay, so I think everyone here, if they're sitting in the room, have already heard that everyone's confused. And I didn't hear anything actionable there, nor what can PQUIP contribute. And I certainly heard a lot of folks saying we should not. Sophia, why don't you turn on your mic? You can turn on the video too. They don't have to just stare at me. I think we should not even take this to the mailing list. I think that that would just be an attractive nuisance. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think you're.
Great. And by the way, this is us literally, like, we have not planned this one. And so she could have said no and done a thing. So, okay. I think that this has been really useful. I believe we used about 40 minutes of everyone's time, and we won't use any more. And if people have guidance drafts and they bring them to the list, we might sort of shut them down. I think it's reasonable for somebody, not the working group, to keep a list of guidance drafts so that when someone says, oh, how do we do the guidance thing? We can say, look at one of these, and that list can grow. But that should not be part of the PQUIP working group. Rich, you've got.
Yeah, I was okay, Rich Sauls, I was okay with, we don't have to bring this to the list, but as soon as you you turned it into something that the chairs were going to be actionable, you really have to confirm that decision on the list.
So what did I say that you thought was
If
actionable? 'Cause
somebody brings a guidance document to us, we will try, in essence, we'll try to bury it.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said that that's not in scope. That's different than burying it. I mean, there's lots
Okay,
of,
sure,
you've
but-
been on the list. You've seen lots of stuff that's not in scope on our list.
Are you, okay. So in other words, this discussion was not about whether or not we should we should do these things that we just vehemently said we don't want to do these things, but rather, should we change our charter to do those things? In other words, if
We just agreed we're not going to do them.
Suppose the sentiment in the room was, yes, we want to do guidance documents. Would that be in scope in our charter?
It could be if you squint, but I know Paul's not sitting here. He would insist it's not.
All right. I don't feel comfortable with you not confirming what the sentiment of this room was without going to the list.
Sure, absolutely. But that would be a saying, this is what we heard, not asking, should we do this again?
Well, sure. That's the standard working group chair's trick.
Yeah.
Yes, fine.
Yeah, okay. And the reason, by the way, for those of you who don't know, the reason why I was picking on Rich is actually somewhat of the expert on working group chair tricks and such like that. And for those of you who actually care about all of this, there is a completely different, completely orthogonal working group called ProCon, which is looking at how do working groups work and all the rules and such. And Rich is like the main author. So if you feel like hopping up to layer 9 about stuff like this, pay attention to ProCon. It's actually quite important for the IETF. Mike?
Mike Ainsworth, I have a concrete suggestion that I think addresses Rich's thing. Could we start a rechartering to scope ourselves down smaller?
We could. I wouldn't want to do that without the AD saying it, because he might just say, no, don't bother. I'm just going to nuke you at the end of, once your 2 drafts are done. So, but that is a real question. I suspect we might have drafts done before the next face-to-face, and at which point then there would be a discussion of what's in charter, what's out of charter. Do we want to find more bike sheds? Do we have enough bike sheds, but we need different paints and such like that? Or ADs are perfectly willing to say you're shut down, and that's fine too. Let's see how that goes. We still have 2 active drafts. And what I think we have today, Sophia, if you agree, is that we don't have this topic. Great. You've got an extra almost hour that we didn't spend, and I think that that's actually good. So thanks very much for coming, and see you on the list. This mic is live. No, it might be. It might be. So. I've done that before and been really embarrassed after that. So let's step over.
Yeah, your slide mentioned private like this sort of stuff starts to get
No.